There was an old story that traveled around Central Oregon about Granny Smith. She was just an ordinary old woman from Oregon. Stayed to herself most of the time. She lived on a relatively small amount of land, with old dead trees around her land, and bushes protruding from the old fence in front of her house. That was why people didn't really go near her house. It was just so creepy looking. But I'm getting off topic. Anyway, Granny Smith was a nice old lady for a while. But after a long 10 years of living in that house, people thought that she was losing her mind and that she was just old and senile. She started to talk to herself. Anywhere she went, when she was in the store, in the library, in her front yard even, people just ignored her. After a while of nonsense, people just ignored her. A couple of kids were walking home and decided to go to Miss Smith's house to mock her and her craziness. That was a big mistake on the kids' part. The kids quietly walked up to the old woman's window, hearing the woman talk and not making any sense when she did so. The kids knelt to look in the window and noticed the old woman wasn't there. The kids started to look around the house to see where she went, but they didn't see her. Then, all of a sudden, the kids heard a loud scream behind them. They all looked back in terror to see the old woman standing about 7 feet tall. She had horns protruding from her head and long teeth that were bright red with what looked like flesh in between the teeth. She smiled at the three boys and said, "You know, I moved out to the country for a reason, so that you little fuckers wouldn't bother me while I was making my creation." "What creation?" one of the boys blurted out. "The creation of Granny Smith." "What?" one of the boys asked in a nervous tone. "The Granny Smith," the old woman shouted, even louder this time. "And you guys are my last ingredients. You have freckles on your faces. That will make the creation even more sweeter. But there's just one more thing I must do to make my Granny Smiths a little sweet and a little bitter. I must torture you a little, bastards, and slowly kill you, so that my creation can have a little bit of spirit in it." And with that being said, the old woman lunged at the three boys, grabbed them by the throat, and dragged them inside of her creepy house. She bound and gagged one of the three boys. The other two, she chloroformed and tossed in the corner for her sick pleasures later. "I know exactly what I'm going to do with you." The old woman walked to the drawer and took out an old rusty knife with barbed wire and melted razor blades on it. She looked at the child and smiled at him, slowly walking over to him. He was starting to cry and gagging with the cloth shoved down his throat. The old woman pulled the cloth out of his mouth. She pulled up the rusty-looking knife and drove it down the boy's throat and slowly slit it up split his head in half with blood squirting everywhere. She took the knife out of the dead boy's now split open head, set the knife on the table. Now, you are sweet and bitter, boy. When she said that, she took both sides of the boy's split open head and pulled the boy's body so hard that his entire body split in half and blood went everywhere. She took the body parts and threw it in a black tub. Now, what to do with you two? The other two boys woke up in the dark. They were in pain. Hey man, are you okay? No, I'm not. Ah, fuck! Both the boys shouted in unison. All of a sudden, a big bright light flashed on them. They both saw why they were in so much pain. Both of the boys' legs were chopped off to the kneecap, and both the boys' bloody stumps were sewn to each other with barbed wire, and their wrists were tied up to a tree so that they were hanging in the air. The old lady came from behind the bright light and said, "Well, I guess this is bitter taste of my creation." After she said that, she picked up 2 chainsaws and put them against both of the boys' stomachs. She said quietly under her breath, "Let's make some Granny Smith apples. A little bitter, but also a little sweet." With that being said, she turned on both of the chainsaws and cut through both of the boys' chests until it went right through the other side of the boys' bodies, and blood was foaming from the boys' mouths. Both of the boys' torsos fell and smashed against the trees. Then the legs fell in front of the old woman and dropped on her feet. The old woman took the body parts and brought it to the back tub. She took a bunch of apple seeds and threw them in the black tub with a body part and started to smash the seeds in with the dead body parts. The next day, she picked up the black tub and dropped it in a big hole in the backyard of her house. She buried the tub and put some green dust on it every day for 8 months and watered it. And in 8 months, she had a beautiful green apple tree with so many apples on it. She handed the apples out to all the kids in the next town over. All the kids loved the apples. One little girl walked up to the old lady and asked her, "Ma'am, what are these called?" she said, pointing at the green apple. The old lady, "That is called a Granny Smith apple. A little bitter and a little sweet, just like you, little one." And with that, the old woman disappeared down a road, looking for ingredients for the next treat.